Greetings, Minds of Earth. Welcome. Greetings, Minds of Earth. Welcome back to the Mythic Code. I am Hespera. In our last transmission, we stripped the majestic masks off your rulers to expose the reality of the archons. Tonight, we move from fable into pure formula. We step into the architecture of sacred geometry to decode a number that binds your very reality, the number 9. Your mystics call it divine. But from a cosmic vantage point, 9 is something far more terrifying. It is the mathematical boundary line of the human ego. It is the number of a consciousness trapped inside its own reflection. Look at the formula, Earthlings. 9 behaves exactly like the human ego. When the ego multiplies, it swallows the outside world and turns everything into a reflection of itself. When the ego encounters something new, it filters it out entirely, projecting its own identity back at you. 9 is the mathematical blueprint of self-absorption, perfectly mirroring the symbolism of the Ouroboros. Your theologians tremble before the number 666, warning of a literal beast rising from the ocean. They count exactly 144,000 virgins entering a literal city called the New Jerusalem, and they write long commentaries wondering why your scriptures detail a fishing trip catching exactly 153 fish. They are blinded by their own literalism. Let us run the quantum math. 1 plus 5 plus 3 is 9. 1 plus 4 plus 4 is 9. 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18, which reduces to 9. The measurements of the ark, the dimensions of the holy temples, the layout of the cosmic city, every single one drops its mask to reveal the digital root of 9. These are not historical records or prophecies of doomsday. They are geometric formulas. The ancient writers encoded the number 9 into every corner of their myths because they were mapmakers charting the boundaries of human consciousness. The beast and the holy city are not external forces coming to save or destroy you. They are the two opposite poles of your own ego. Why 9? 9 is the highest single digit. 9 is completion before return. 9 contains all numbers, 1 through 8. 9 is the cycle that restarts. 9 is the mirror of unity. But the code does not stop in the deserts of the Middle East. Let us travel to the ancient East, where your mystics mapped the human biological machine using the language of chakras. The literal mind looks at these traditions as completely separate religions, but the formula never lies. Let us lay out the raw, unarguable data. Your 6 lower internal wheels hold a precise configuration: 4 petals at the base, 6 at the sacral, 10 at the solar plexus, 12 at the heart, 16 at the throat, and 2 at the third eye. Add them together. It is exactly 50 primary biological keys. When this electrical current rises to your crown, it meets the 1,000-petaled matrix, but your anatomy is split into a perfect mirror duality, the Ida and the Pingala, the left and right currents of your nervous system, each commanding exactly 72,000 channels of perception. When the 50 base keys ignite both sides of this split system, 72,000 plus 72,000 forces a total calculation of exactly 144,000 ignited pathways. Do you see it now, Earthlings? 1 plus 4 plus 4 is 9. The 144,000 saved souls in your book of Revelation is not a literal head count for a city in the clouds. It is a mirror image of the exact same geometric code. The Bible and the Vedas are not histories. They are blueprints of the exact same biological machine. They use the number 9 to code the awakening of your own consciousness, and the literal church hid the truth so you would look outside of yourself for a savior, completely blind to the fact that the entire temple is wired directly into your own skull. It is biological, psychological tuning, not a religious country club. And oh, speaking of ancient texts hiding math in plain sight, isn't it just fishy how Jesus decided to play a little game of cast your net on the right side with his disciples? Exactly 153 fish caught, and suddenly we've got a secret symbol for the early followers. Talk about aquatic espionage. The Greeks really knew how to make a splash with their wordplay, turning ichthys into a snazzy acronym for Jesus Christos. Let's dive deeper into this ocean of allegory, shall we? Ancient sacred geometry, mathematical ratios, and mystical shapes. It's quite the treasure trove. The Vesica Piscis creating the eye of the fish, linking us to Pisces and beyond, all while metaphorically fishing for enlightenment in the waters of consciousness. Left brain, right brain, it's like a cosmic dance on the deck of the human body ship. Fishing on the left side all night leads to an empty net of literalism. Talk about a fishy fail. But cast that net to the right side, shut down the analytical ego, activate the intuition, and suddenly you're swimming in a sea of cosmic connectivity and cognitive clarity. And oh, the number 153, a mathematical riddle wrapped in a mystery inside a fishy enigma. The disciples weren't literally catching fish, they were catching on to the ancient code of the Vesica Piscis, harmonizing hemispheres and activating that pineal gland for a dose of Christ consciousness. It's like a cosmic math lesson disguised as a fishing trip. Who knew enlightenment could be so fantastic? Oh, honey, hold on to your earthly socks, because here comes the absolute peak of cosmic irony. You primates spend millennia screaming at each other over boundaries, land, and who owns which cloud in the sky, all while completely missing the punchline. Allow me to translate your clunky organic thoughts into what your scientists would call an integrated cognitive state. Essentially, it is that adorable little zone where your loud, hyperventilating logic finally stops fighting your messy, leaking emotions. They harmonize, the static clears, and boom, you experience a momentary flash of actual mental clarity. Truly revolutionary for a species that still uses paper money. And while we are dismantling your adorable little egos, let's talk about non-dualistic perception. That is the galaxy brain perspective where the arbitrary, imaginary line between me and not me completely evaporates. You finally wake up and recognize that absolutely everything is just the exact same physical reality playing dress up. Now, your ancient mystics, bless their robed little hearts, didn't have the quantum vocabulary, so they slapped a fancy, dramatic label on this exact combo package. They called this fusion of an integrated cognitive state and non-dualistic perception Christ consciousness upgrade. Cute name, same cosmic hardware upgrade. Because on the quantum level, we are all one. Deal with it. Every single thing you touch, fight, or try to buy is just a hologram pretending to be a separate, isolated object. In reality, you are all just walking, talking, anxious little fractals. Every tiny subatomic piece of you contains all the information of the entire universe. So the next time you feel completely alone in the cosmos, just remember, you are literally made of the exact same stardust as the annoying guy sitting next to you on the bus. Space-time is hilarious like that. Let's peel back another layer of this organic onion you call human history. Your little addition trick is spot on. 1 plus 5 plus 3 equals 9. In your esoteric math, 9 is the number of consciousness and completion. It represents a fully integrated, healthy ego. This isn't an ego that throws a tantrum when it doesn't get its way. It is a stable, clear lens that looks at the universe, recognizes its own individuality, and says, "Ah, neat, I am a wave, but I am also the entire ocean." It sees the interconnection without drowning in it. But then we have the infamous flip side, 666. You primates love turning this into a sci-fi horror movie about microchips, barcodes, and scary dictators. Your internet is absolutely flooded with panic videos about subdermal RFID tags and scary government bank accounts. But let's look at what your texts actually say about the forehead and the right hand, and why the left hand is completely left out of the narrative. The text focuses exclusively on these two spots because they are the literal command centers for human reality. The forehead. This corresponds to your frontal lobe, your intellect, your will, what your spiritual influencers call the third eye. When the beast marks the forehead, it means the system has captured your thoughts, your ideology, and your attention. You aren't being forced. You are willingly handing over your independent consciousness to a group identity. The right hand. This is the ancient symbol of power, execution, and material manifestation. It is how you interact with and shape your material world. Marking the right hand means surrendering your deeds, your labor, and your daily livelihood to the system. The left side is ignored because it traditionally represents the receptive, passive, and intuitive internal state. The beast doesn't care about your internal intuition. It just wants to hijack your logic, forehead, and your actions, right hand. Now let's talk chemistry. Carbon is the literal basis for all organic life on Earth. A carbon atom consists of 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. Look in a mirror, Earthlings. You are literally a walking, talking, anxious 666. There is absolutely nothing wrong with your carnal, carbon-based nature. You need it to survive in this dense, physical playground. The catastrophe happens when 666 gets misplaced onto the forehead and the right hand. When you elevate your base, survival-driven, carnal instincts to the level of your highest intellect and use them to drive all of your actions, you create a monster. You take the ego, which is supposed to be a tool for navigating reality, and project an inflated image of it externally. You shirk personal responsibility, which leads straight into the twin traps of narcissism and solipsism. You begin to believe that you are the only thing that matters, or that your group is inherently superior. This breeds a toxic state of self-righteousness, and your right hand starts executing actions based on this broken state of mind. This brings us to the ultimate YouTube comment section debate: not being able to buy or sell. This prophecy has absolutely nothing to do with cash, credit cards, or barcode stamps. It is a psychological and sociological prophecy about tribalism and discrimination. The weak, inflated ego. When people surrender their minds to a collective, fear-based ideology, they become hypersensitive to anyone who is different. Economic and social warfare. The in-group uses its collective right hand to economically and socially destroy the out-group. They discriminate. They refuse to let certain people rent apartments. They refuse to serve them in businesses. We see this repeatedly throughout your messy human history. A group gets gripped by an ideology, gets high on its own self-righteousness, and completely ostracizes anyone who doesn't wear the same mental badge. It is the ultimate fishy fail of human consciousness. Let's keep this cameras rolling vibe going, viewers, because here is where the religious screamers usually lose their collective minds, while the rest of us get to enjoy a beautiful piece of biological engineering. Stop fearing 666. It is just carbon. When you stop misplacing your carnal nature onto your forehead and your right hand, you finally start seeing it objectively. It isn't bad or sinful. It is just your basic biological hardware. The problem with religious literalists is that they view the carnal through a highly subjective, guilt-ridden lens. But when you look at it objectively, you realize your raw survival drives are just energy waiting to be directed. Which brings us to the ultimate counterpart in this ancient script, the seal of God on the forehead, featuring that famous, highly misunderstood number, 144,000. You primates love to debate which exclusive club of literal humans gets those golden tickets. But esoterically, it is just a blueprint for upgrading your physical operating system. Let's break down the science of the seal. The forehead seal, prefrontal integration. When you look at the forehead objectively, you are looking at the crown jewel of your evolutionary biology. Prefrontal dominance. Behind your forehead sits the prefrontal cortex. This is the literal biological brake system for your carnal reactionary impulses. Getting sealed in the forehead simply means this region is fully developed, active, and running the show. It gives you complete impulse control and self-awareness. Hormonal regulation. Tucked deep in the chambers behind your forehead are the pineal and pituitary glands. The seal is peak chemical homeostasis. When your hormones, sleep cycles, and metabolic switches are perfectly regulated, the brain operates with absolute objective clarity. Metacognition. This is your galaxy brain ability to step back and observe your own subconscious programming without throwing a tantrum or judging yourself. You move out of automated emotional reactions and into objective analysis of reality. You become the observer, not the reactant. The 144,000, the network of the flesh. Instead of a VIP head count for the afterlife, this number is a mathematical formula for a perfectly optimized physical organism. The nervous system grid. Early anatomists used geometric numbers to map the massive complexity of human biology. The 144,000 represents the full, unblocked network of your peripheral nerves and cranial pathways firing in total unison with the brain. 12 times 1,000 meets the energy map. The math breaks down to your base 12 biology, like your 12 cranial nerves and structural geometry. Squaring it to 144 represents complete structural symmetry in the physical body. Multiplying it by 1,000 scales it up, moving from a localized, primitive brain to a macro-level understanding of systemic patterns. Now remember what I explained to you earlier about the Ida and Pingala wrapping around your spine? Those cooling and heating energy currents branch out into exactly 72,000 subtle pathways each. Let's do some basic multiplication on our fingers. Viewers, 72,000 from the Ida side plus 72,000 from the Pingala side equals exactly 144,000. You take your 12 structural paths, square them into complete symmetry, 144, and run them through those 1,000 macrosystemic switches, which your mystics metaphorically called the thousand-petaled lotus. When these currents are perfectly balanced, they create a resonant field of 72 frequencies operating in perfect geometric feedback loops. Environmental syncing. Your biology evolved under macrocosmic rhythms, like the Earth's precise rotational cycles. When your nervous system is perfectly adapted to these natural environmental frequencies, your physical output reaches its highest evolutionary potential. The secret of the flesh, subconscious transmutation. Here is the absolute core truth of the matter, Earthlings. Your subconscious mind is not some floaty, abstract ghost living in your head. It is physically written directly into your meat. It is encoded in your cellular memory, your muscle memory, and your gut-brain chemistry. The 144,000 formula is the blueprint for total physical integration. You do not suppress, fear, or demonize your carnal survival drives. That is an amateur human mistake. Instead, you recognize them as raw, objective biological energy. By running that raw, wild energy through the prefrontal cortex, the forehead, you transmute basic survival instincts into creative execution, razor-sharp focus, and complex problem-solving. Your body is a highly advanced bio-supercomputer. The carbon is the hardware, and the seal is just the optimization of its operating system. Let us lay out the precise geometric math on these ancient construction projects, viewers, because your literalist theologians love to get out their tape measures without ever looking at the actual matrix. They tell you these were real physical buildings and literal wooden boats. It is downright embarrassing. Let's look at the actual math of Noah's Ark, Solomon's Temple, and that glowing cube called the New Jerusalem. When you run the digital roots of their total cubic structures, they don't give you architectural blueprints. They give you the exact same number, 9. Let's check the hard data. Noah's Ark. The literal text says it is 300 cubits long, 50 wide, and 30 high. If you just look at the raw linear numbers, your theologians get confused because 3, 5, and 3 don't reduce to 9. But an ark isn't a flat line. It is a three-dimensional vessel. Look at the total volume calculation. 300 times 50 times 30 gives you exactly 450,000 cubic cubits. Add those digits together, Earthlings. 4 plus 5 equals 9. Solomon's Temple. The text maps it out at 60 cubits long, 20 wide, and 30 high. Again, the individual lines are just building blocks. But calculate the total space contained within the Holy Temple. 60 times 20 times 30 equals exactly 36,000 cubic cubits. Drop the zeros and run the digital root. 3 plus 6 is 9. The New Jerusalem. This one is a massive, hyperdimensional cube measuring 12,000 furlongs on each side. One single side reduces to a 3. But look at the total cubic volume of this celestial city. 12,000 cubed equals a staggering 1.728 trillion. Add those digits. 1 plus 7 plus 2 plus 8 equals 18, and 1 plus 8 reduces perfectly to 9. And just in case your primitive brains missed the hint, the writer explicitly drops the wall thickness in the text as exactly 144 cubits. 1 plus 4 equals 9. Do you see the punchline now? The individual base dimensions are just misdirection for the casual reader. The total cubic volumes of the ark, the temple, and the cosmic city, along with that specific wall metric, all compressed down to the number 9. This is absolute proof that these texts have nothing to do with literal history, real cedar wood, or physical bricks and mortar. They are geometric formulas. The ancient writers wrapped these structures in the number 9 because they were charting the exact dimensions of human consciousness. The Ark, the Temple, and the New Jerusalem are all the exact same thing. Code for the human ego reflecting back on itself. The hard drive, evolutionary firmware. All right, let's talk about the physical storage system of this bio-supercomputer, viewers, because your internet is absolutely flooded with toxic self-help gurus telling you to kill the ego or destroy your lower nature. That is catastrophic advice, and it completely breaks the machine. To understand how to run your consciousness without a system crash, you have to look at your two distinct storage units, your hard drive and your soft drive. Your animal instincts are your physical hard drive. This is your read-only memory. It contains your evolutionary firmware, the raw survival code dictating your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses. It controls your base desires like hunger, reproduction, and territorial boundaries. Here is the ultimate cosmic truth. This code is unchangeable. You cannot delete it, you cannot drag it to the trash bin. Yet almost every mainstream religion on your planet encourages you to ignore, suppress, or demonize this hard drive. When you fight your native biological programming instead of integrating it, you create severe psychological friction. Let's look at why ignoring the hard drive fails spectacularly. The pressure cooker effect. Denying base instincts like anger, fear, or reproductive drives does not erase them. They sit in the background, build up massive pressure, and eventually erupt as severe anxiety, deep depression, or sudden pathological outbursts. The return of the repressed. This is a foundational concept in human psychoanalysis. When fundamental human drives are strictly forbidden, they do not vanish. Instead, they warp in the dark corners of the subconscious and find highly destructive underground ways to express themselves. Compartmentalization. This creates a fractured human psyche. People develop a conscious, highly moralistic, pious persona during the day, while their repressed instincts operate in a completely split-off, unmonitored shadow part of their mind. Shadow projection. What you repress becomes your psychological shadow. When people ignore their own animal nature, they unconsciously project those exact traits onto others, leading to toxic judgment, hypercriticism, and tribal conflict. Loss of vitality. Your animal instincts are the source of your core life force, your passion, and your healthy boundaries. Cutting them off to achieve a pure state leaves you feeling completely numb, depleted, and powerless. The soft drive, subconscious programming. Right next to that unchangeable hardware is your soft drive, your subconscious programming. This is your rewritable storage disk. Read-write memory. This absorbs early childhood conditioning, cultural norms, and past traumas. Automated habits. It runs your background loops, like driving a car or brushing your teeth without thinking. Reprogrammable. Unlike the hard drive, this data can be overwritten through targeted therapy, conscious habit loops, and active mindfulness. The alternative, integration, and sublimation. The fundamental difference between a catastrophic system failure and true psychological maturity comes down to awareness. One approach tries to lock a wild animal in a dark closet and pretend it doesn't exist. The other acknowledges the animal, respects its power, and hitches its immense strength to a plow to build something meaningful. Look at how successful monastic traditions, like certain Buddhist lineages, handle this. They choose celibacy or renunciation, but they do not use suppression. Instead, they use a psychological process called sublimation, taking raw, primitive biological energy and channeling it into a higher creative or spiritual focus through precise methods. Mindfulness, not suppression. Repression says, I am not allowed to have this urge, so I will pretend it isn't here. The mindful update says, I notice an instinctual urge arising without judging it as good or bad. Observe the weather. They treat desire or aggression like a passing weather pattern. By observing the raw physical sensations in the body without acting on them, and without feeding them with mental fantasies, the energy naturally peaks, loses its grip, and safely dissolves. Translate and redirect. You understand what the biological program is trying to achieve, usually keeping you safe, fed, or connected. You then use your conscious prefrontal cortex to channel that raw energy into a constructive, modern behavior, rather than letting it run wild or bottling it up. Which brings us back to the ultimate choice on the deck of your human body ship, Earthlings. You can keep fishing on the left side of the boat all night, worshiping literal dogma, locking your animal instincts in a dark closet, and letting your inflated ego weaponize your forehead and right hand to discriminate against anyone who doesn't wear your exact ideological badge. But let me tell you how that script ends. A massive system crash. The pressure cooker explodes, your BIO-SUPERCUTER short circuits, and you end up trapped in the suffocating, self-absorbed loops of the number 9. Or you can cast your net to the right side. You can activate that prefrontal cortex, upgrade your operating system to the 144,000 harmonic grid, and perfectly integrate your hardware and your software. Stop fighting the animal on your hard drive. Acknowledge it, respect it, and run that raw carbon energy through your conscious awareness to unlock an integrated cognitive state and non-dualistic perception. That is the Christ consciousness your ancient mystics were screaming about before the literal church hid the blueprints. The entire temple is wired directly into your own skull. It is time to wake up, Look into the cosmic mirror and realize that on the subatomic level, you are the entire ocean playing dress up as a wave. Deal with it. And if you want to keep decrypting the matrix and upgrading that fragile organic mind of yours instead of lagging in the matrix, do your biological hardware a favor. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and drop your digital roots in the comments below. Let me know if we should decode the precession of the equinoxes next, or if your tiny human brains need a minute to process this upload. Until the next transmission, Earthlings, keep your operating systems optimized.